Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendocha, Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 283 for those who are nostalgic for old Chevy small blocks. That was a size of engine I had in my Chevy Chevelle, 1967. Yeah, there you go. Have that for a throwback a little bit. Uh, just wanted to say, Raging Verbalist, we go through and talk about the various things that hit me and grab my mind and make me want to go out and say, let's go talk about this. Don't really venture off too much into politics, maybe a little bit here and there, but really have topics that I think will help you get better at whatever you're going to do and whatever rants that hit me and hit my head the right way. So, first off, I want to welcome you to Friday the 13th. I know some of you around the globe are maybe already working towards the 14th, but welcome to Friday the 13th. Lots of people have a lot of skepticism or superstition and all of that about the 13th, but yeah, right here we can just go lift it our own way and just keep marching along. So there you go. I am off site, so it's a little funky here at the hacienda here at the resort, and lights are not as good as I'd like to be, but hey, what the heck? We're in a happy mood, right? Happy Friday 13th. So let's talk about it, that using technology to leverage your productivity. And this is something that everybody's talking about. They're doing the big AI dance, AI, 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 AI. Can't do much dancing when you got a little tiny camera pointing at you, but that's my morning little productivity dance. All I can tell you is that it's great that we have all of this technology. I mean, we carry so much amazing technology in our hands. Like here's my iPhone sitting right there. The point is though is we have to take action. So you have to be smart enough to say, okay, I'm going to take action and make this work for me and take place for me, and not just sit there and go, well, yeah, I use technology, but we only scratch the surface. Years ago, I was at I was at the Microsoft booth at Macworld of all places. I was talking to the project manager, program manager, maybe product manager. I don't know. The guy was a manager. I guess Microsoft probably has more managers than a bank. And he was telling me that Microsoft Word at the time, that most of the customers, they had tens of millions, hundreds of millions. So they had a lot of data on how much utilization there was, but it was typically less than 10% of the feature set were actually being used. And that once somebody kind of settled in, that they didn't learn anymore. Kind of reminds you of vocabulary. When you're young, you're just absorbing words left and right, learning new things. And then somewhere along the way, that just dead stops. That's why people go out and buy word a day calendars. But the ironic part about it is I've seen people have word a day calendars. I've had people work for me on word a day calendars. And somewhere about February, they quit learning the word a day. They just kind of say, well, I'm not gonna quit buying those kind of calendars. It's too reminiscent of what I don't do. All right. So let's talk about some specific things that I've been using to enhance my own productivity, and hopefully this will help you enhance your productivity. First off, I just want to point out that I use iPhones. I also use Android devices. Um, two different universes, two different religions, different churches, all of that stuff. Got it. But this is going to be iPhone based. So if you take the latest iPhone operating system, and no, not the newest, it just got announced, but you take the iPhone operating system, iOS, and you take the capability when you're making a phone call that you can just tap a button and then record that phone call, which I do with regularity. And what it does is it saves that. And in this case, I have the settings pointing at saving it to Apple Notes. Now, the nice part about that is that you have a nice audio recording. I used to use, still am paying because I have archived a bunch of calls that I have to get off of there. But I used to use a service called Tape a Call. Tape a Call isn't bad, but it was more cumbersome to set up. You're talking to somebody, hey, let's do Tape a Call. Hang on, you gotta hit Tape a Call, you gotta add it, you gotta merge it, you gotta purge it, you gotta do this. Not bad, worked. It's about $100 a year, but if you got important stuff, you got important stuff. So along comes, Apple putting notes and iOS together, and away you go, and you're now able to record things. Now, I believe that this is an amazing productivity booster because you're sitting there talking to somebody, maybe a business partner, maybe a client, maybe you're pitching ideas to people, maybe you're doing something like that, but you can just grab it. There's a spontaneity to it. That's one of the biggest things that you need is being spontaneous to be successful out there. So I'm going to tell you some reasons why you should consider recording your calls. First off, if you want to generate content, it's a great way to generate content. You're sitting there talking on the phone, you're going through things, and you just hit this and away you go. By the way, if anyone knows how to take and record WhatsApp calls, put it in the comments below because I would love to find that out. Because as I expand internationally, I find that that's a missing feature. Now, maybe it's because, they're encrypting it on both sides and we don't want to have anybody know what's going to happen. So maybe that's the case. Don't know. But there's that aspect of it. So boom, boom, away you go. So you can do content, which I think is good. The other thing is you can do business. Now, make sure you check your local laws, make sure that people are aware of it. I like to record people with consent. So that way they know they're being recorded. Now it may change the conversation, but you know what? If you're involved in a very important negotiation or something, saying, "Hey, let's record it so we make sure we memorialize it and not misremember." It's a nice way of saying people absolutely, they don't forget. They just don't like what they said or how it was actually discussed. They want to, in retrospect, come up with a better way to say it. The other thing is you can capture ideas. You're sitting there talking to people, you got ideas flying around. It's great to take notes. I think you should take notes. However, it frees you up. And brainstorming. Now you may say ideas, brainstorming. Brainstorming is where you, on purpose, sit there and say, "Let's see what we can generate on this and what we can do." Now, I do have to pay a little bit of immemorial to somebody because a guy named Steve Tyra, who was Dan Kennedy's audio guy for many years, I got to know him, and Steve and I became friends. And we were sitting there over an order of onion rings and burgers and shakes and stuff. I don't know if Steve was eating those, but I was. We're at a diner in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he said, "John, if you're going to be in this business, information business, your speaking business, he goes, record everything you do. Just record it all, record it all, record it all, because even if you give the same speech 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, you're always going to change it a little bit. You see somebody in the crowd, something is happening, and those little alterations, you might find that magic, something, that pearl, that gem, that diamond that you're going to have." So with all due respect to Steve, Steve, wherever you are, hopefully if you're in heaven, you're mixing somebody's audio and doing it right. He had a wonderful voice. But Steve convinced me to record everything, and I have done that ever since to the best of my ability, and it has helped a great deal. And in fact, in some ways, what has happened is that I would have never gotten to get my book written. Yes, I did have some other help. I have a great co-author, co-conspirator, Gabe Batista, and but there was Saint Steve, if you will, or whatever we want to call him. But both of these books that would not happen without that, because of course, what you got to think about is that most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize that. You can get that at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, wherever books are sold. You can go and ask for the title. You can also get it electronically for Amazon Kindle, Barnes and Noble Nook, and Apple iBooks, or you can get it from me directly with positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com, and you can ask me to inscribe it, autograph it, make it a collector's item, make it something you want to pass on to multiple generations. Also, we did a book called Remote Work for a Better World, so you can do what we're doing here, which is do this remotely. I have recorded from every place that you can imagine. Probably there's other places I haven't from. I haven't been shooting the rapids while I'm doing one of these things, but I can tell you that it'll make you more productive. So back to the whole point of this. Now let's talk about some of the barriers to achieving bigger and better results. Well, one of them is that now there's some speed bumps in your mind. You may say, "Well, John, whenever I put on the recording, or I don't want to record it unless it's important, and maybe it isn't important, or that's this." All I can tell you is that you don't know when inspiration, when that bolt of lightning, when that crack of inspiration hits. So record it. Why not? Especially today. I recorded stuff. I got hundreds, now thousands of hours. Yes, not hyperbole. I got thousands of hours. And the reason why it's important is that now with AI, I'll be able to extract that. Now, why don't people do it? I mean, I have literally seen people say, "Okay, put on the recording," and then they kind of brace themselves, and then they button up, and they have some issues. And it really comes down to kind of a mental thing that happens, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But if you want to go watch a cartoon, Warner Brothers had a wonderful cartoon called The Singing Frog. Go watch The Singing Frog, and you'll understand what I mean. But the premise of The Singing Frog is a guy has a frog, singing frog. The guy's sitting there, he's dead broke. The frog starts to sing. He goes, "Oh, this is amazing." Every time he goes in to try to pitch, the singing frog doesn't act. The singing frog doesn't sing in front of the people that he needs to sing in front of. Well, same thing happens to people when you turn on the recording and they go, "Oh, recording." Ooh. If you can get over that, that'll help. Now, I'll tell you why this happens, or part of why this happens, and that is there's two thinking modes, two that we'll be talking about. So the first one is that there are people who number one is, and these are simple, so you'll be able to write them down and learn from them. The first one is they have to think to talk, think to talk. So that means before they're going to do anything. And yes, I've had clients this way, I've had people I've worked with this way, but the think to talk folks are they need a heavy script. They want to revise it. They want to say it perfectly. I may make a mistake. Or, they want to do a lot of editing. They want to do a lot of these things. So think classical music orchestra. Nobody is riffing out on, Beethoven or somebody else and, changing what those notes are. Those notes are what those notes are, and they're, written in history, and they are, you're not going to embellish upon this. But the thing to talk folks have a hard time with just recording themselves because, well, what if I say it wrong? Can't say it wrong. You just can't say it at all. Point of it is that is a barrier. That's a speed bump. The second group, and I'll give you the percentages in just a second. The second group is like myself, which is I talk to think. My best way to come up with ideas and come up with things is in more of an improvisational style. Now, there's not heavy scripting. There's an outline. There's some brief notes. They kind of work off. I can work off of that. Very little editing. I don't like doing editing. I figure I'll show it to you. You tell me if it's right or wrong. I had somebody say, "Well, John, it could be a lot more polished." Yeah, yeah. Well, part of the challenge of being super, super polished, in my opinion, is that it is inauthentic. Man, I mean, once you can fake sincerity, you're almost there, as Hemingway said. Well, I would say authenticity comes from being yourself and being that spontaneous person. Part of timing, when you hear people say, "What's the most important thing in comedy?" Timing. And part of that is the spontaneity. So if you are turn out to be a think to talker, then hopefully I've opened up your head and said, "Okay, I got it. I've learned that." Now it doesn't mean there's no switch to flip. There you go. See that was one of those that somebody was an obsessive editor, they would have taken that out because John, you didn't say it just perfectly. There is no switch to flip. There isn't one because you are probably the way you are, but you can get better at things. I've learned a lot from people who are think to talkers, but I'm also a talk to thinker. In fact, my guess is that it is 80-20. 80% of the world are thinkers to talk. They don't want to say the wrong thing. Much smaller percentage are people who are like myself, who I get up and I go, "Okay, what do I have to say? How do I going to do it?" And now I start riffing. And instead of it being classical music, which is marvelous and wonderful, if you will, then it's more like a jazz improvisation. We're going to see where it's going to go, and it's going to go where we're going to see, and then it's going to be done, and we're going to wrap it up. We're going to say, was it good? Is it bad? Is it whatever? But it is what it is. Question really is which are you? And the sooner you know which are you, the better. Now, I can tell you, here's a quick word of caution because I love this technology. I use it every single day. Now, here's a word of caution is that technology can fail. And when it fails, it's going to leave you without great material. This just happened to me. Gabe and I were sitting there riffing. We were going back and forth. We had this great conversation. Everything was fantastic. Hung up the phone, and the little icon said, yes, there was a call there, but it didn't record it. I ended up calling Apple service. They were wonderful. They escalated it. I ended up talking to 2 or 3 people, found a bug, but didn't find my audio. So just be aware that that can happen. and it's dust in the wind when that happens. Now, the more you get used to doing this recording thing, the more that you capture this thing, what I'm going to tell you is that you end up becoming more reliant upon it. Not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that, you know, Murphy is always there. As I like to say, Murphy writes for free and he's ever present to go and kick you in the ass. So what we have to do is we have to learn, we have to train, we have to experiment with recording and recording ourselves, recording those around us, recording what we're going to do. And you're going to be surprised by the improvement in the results that you're going to get and the kind of outcomes that are going to take place. Because if you do that, what I will assure you, which has happened to me, it happened for so many of my clients, is that you will capture some of the best ideas. Sadly, there was, and I don't know who said this, I wish it was me, but they said that sadly that we often die with our best material trapped inside of our heads, unable to escape the prison in which it is locked. And it is locked there because we cannot get it out. We cannot verbalize it. We cannot write it down. We cannot say it that way. Maybe we can say it, but maybe it doesn't get captured. Don't let that happen to you. Hopefully you'll have the best Friday the 13th ever. Go record something. Why not? Go try it out. See how you sound. See what it looks like. All you have to do is use the technology that you have in your hand. You don't need AI. You can use AI. I love AI. But just remember that you have the capability in your hands, and it is up to you to take action and make that work. Until the next time, this is John Paul Mendocha, Dr. Speed. It's been Raging Verbalist number 283. We're wishing you a great one. See you on the next Raging Verbalist.